Now I'd like to introduce our host, Duncan Clark, Vice President Strategy at St. Joseph Media. Thank you both so much for your time today. And take it away, Duncan.
Thanks, Chantal. And first off, a big welcome to our Ottawa.Insider community. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you all have your copies of the new issue of Ottawa Magazine. California Closet's in there, of course, and it came out just a couple of weeks ago. A big focus in the issue is home, and your home, of course. We know that we're going into a winter unlike any other we've experienced. And while here in Ottawa, we are great at getting outdoors in the wintertime, a lot of us are working from home, and the cold weather means we'll be inside more and in our homes maybe more than ever before. So that's why I'm so pleased that we can be joined today by a great partner of ours at Ottawa Magazine, Lianne Levy, who, as Chantal mentioned, is the owner and president of California Closets Ottawa, which, while it might have California in the name, I think it's important to know is a fully Canadian-owned business. So Lianne is an interior organization expert and has been helping people bring productivity and style into their homes for a long, long time. Today, she's going to offer tips and tricks for decluttering your space, creating an ergonomically supportive system, and how to create shared or multi-use workspaces that work for you. That's where I am right now, a multi-use workspace right here in my dining room / office. My wife Jenny works upstairs in a different room. I'm sure this sort of situation is not much different from a lot of you joining us here today. So as I mentioned, Leanne's been doing this a long time. I'm very excited to get going on the next hour. This is an interactive session, so please do feel free to put your questions into the chat, and we'll get to as many of them as we can today. So Lianne, once again, thank you for being here today, and take it away.
Morning, everybody, or good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for giving up an hour of your day to learn some stuff and be with us. Does everybody see my screen? Someone give me a thumbs up.
Yes, you're good.
Perfect. So here we go. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of finding ourselves at home. Duncan already spoke about it, and we're all finding that to be a very different experience right now. I think the most important thing in this session is I'm going to give you some really concrete steps of things to do to organize your space in your home so that it functions the way you want it to function. I think it's super important to remember that, like life, as we say at California Closets, no two are the same. So super important to remember to take from this what suits you. So this is a picture of me. As Duncan already said, I've owned California Closets Ottawa for over 30 years. We are a locally owned family business all that time. And almost everything we do, manufacture, is from Canada. So I think that's super important for people to know. Anyway, today I'm really, really hoping that you find this productive. So if there's anything in particular that you're hoping to learn in the next hour, to either unmute yourself and share it with me, or type it into the chat box, and Duncan and his team will make sure that we circle back to it in question and answer. So I'll just give everybody a minute to do that. Anybody want to unmute themselves and let me know what they're hoping they're going to learn in this next hour? I can't see everybody. No? Nobody brave enough? All right, then we'll keep going. So whenever I run a meeting, I try to think about what is it that is important to accomplish during this hour? And this is what I was thinking is important to accomplish. So the purpose is to impart some expertise on how you can create great personalized workspace in your own home. And there are two things that I hope you'll learn, two big things, or begin to learn, which is one, the key, the absolute key to functional design is that you need to think about, and I'm going to talk to you about how to go about this, but you need to think about what you have, the things literally, but more importantly, how you use these things. And so we're going to go through the steps of you thinking about that and taking notes. And then the second part of what we'll do is we're going to go through the 5 steps of functional design. So you'll leave with some sort of plan on how to think about your own space and create your own space. Is that good? Okay. So next. So here's our agenda. Nobody had any outcomes. We're going to start with some inspiration because that's always fun. Then we're going to go through 6 steps to getting organized, some more inspiration, and then make sure that you have all your questions answered, and then talk about a couple of fun housekeeping things. So inspiration is really, I love this quote. It's about bringing beauty, organization, and intention to your work and in your life. And you're going to see as we start to do this, consciousness or intention is actually the key to great organization. If you overthink from the beginning, you'll never have to think about it again. And so that's really important. So here's just some inspirational images of home offices. And as you're looking at them, I want you to see that it could be something super traditional like this. It can be something super traditional like this. Another one, smaller space, but we found some beautiful clean space. This is really fun. This next series of little pictures just shows you, start to think about your home differently. Where is there unexpected space that you never thought you could create a home office space or a creative space? It's a beautiful example of something that we've done under a staircase, for example. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is a client who turned a shed into a creative space, a space that they were literally using as a shed. And then we'll come back and I will show you some of my favorite details about organizing things in here later. Multi-use rooms. You know, now that we're finding ourselves with more people at home during the day needing to work, we need to be more creative about thinking about multifunctional rooms. We need to think about how can we use a room for more than one purpose. And so here's an example of a room that sometimes functions as a breakfast nook and sometimes functioning as an office for 4 different members of the home. Again, here's an example of a den that now we've added a piece for some home office space for two people to work at. So that's really fun to think about. I love this. This is a dining room that sometimes functions the way I do. I like a huge desk when I'm working. But now in my dining room area, I've created, you can see in the background, some space to store all my office things. This is a playroom that is now still working as a playroom. This is a fun before and after, but now with the addition of a beautiful table and using some of that covered space, we've created a home office or an office space for some kids. Not a great photograph, but I love this idea. This is in someone's bedroom. Turned part of a wardrobe. We had built a closet on their wall, and then we added, just this year, a space for desks. This is a pantry where you can see on the left, we have pantry and a place to store things, but now we've added a little home office space as well. And then one of my favorites is wall beds and multi-use rooms where sometimes it's going to function as a guest room, or in my case, my 26-year-old had to come home from school because of COVID. So we turned a room into it's functioning as my office sometimes during the day and her bedroom in the evenings. So that's it for me for inspiration. Again, if anybody has any questions, unmute yourself and ask, but otherwise I'm going to keep going. So we all know, and I think this is just a funny little image, the importance of a plan. Organizing one's home for clients, for people, can feel super overwhelming. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to give you this plan of how you go about it. And I just think it's a funny image. So there are 5 steps to the plan, and we're going to go through them one at a time. I'm just going to read them. Take a week to consciously think about what and how you were using things. 2, take everything out. 3, sort into 4 categories. 4, 5 very functional design tips. And then the last one is to making the space feel like you or whoever's using it. So this is actually, in my years of experience, the most important thing. I'd like you to take a week, and I want you to think about 2 things. What you have, we're going to talk about that in more detail, and how you use it. And what that means is during the week, as you and your family or the people that you share your space with are using your home, think about what do I go look for? When I'm sitting in front of my computer, what do I grab? When I'm on the telephone, what do I grab? If you're talking about kids, when they're doing homework, what do they need when they're working? What do they stand up for? One of the things that you can tune into and that everybody should tune into is an emotional piece. What makes you feel relaxed? Like, I'm looking for my pen, and so that makes me feel good. We were talking about this earlier. I noticed that I'm aggravated because I had a pencil drawer behind me, and so every time I needed a highlighter, I had to turn around. And it sounds like such a silly thing, but the act of turning around was frustrating me a little bit. And the solution was something as simple as put something beautiful on my desk to hold the highlighters that I'm using all the time. So when you spend this week, when each member of your family who needs space in their home is spending their week, think about, what do I need all the time? It's critical to great design. And use your emotion to help guide you. Stop and pay attention. So for a week, the homework is to consciously think about what you have. What do you use all the time? What do you use some of the time? And how you use it. What do you need to see with what? If you're doing something creative, do you need swatches in front of you? The way I work is I like to have piles on my desk. And at the end of the day, I like to have a place to put those piles so that I close my office space. One of the things that we know with COVID is creating a space where I work and then having a way to stop working is become exceptionally important, as an example. Because we're in our homes, more of us are working more hours of the day, and we're not prioritizing, okay, now I'm at work, now I'm not, because we're physically in the space. So that's one of the things to be paying attention to in the week is, how do I close the end of my day? Are there physical things that I could do, like closing a door, putting all my papers away behind something, that kind of thing? Anybody have any questions? Any thoughts? Okay, then we will keep going. So really, 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 this is the most important thing. If you don't learn anything else from this hour, spending the time thinking about that, what you have and how you are using it, will be the most important thing I can teach you. So, step 2, take everything out. And yes, I mean everything. I'm going to show you a picture that's not a home office picture, but I love it. So this was a space that a client was using for their clothes. And this is how she felt about the space when it was empty. And the reason I'm sharing this picture is because you can see, if I can figure out how to move backwards, which I probably can't, you can see that the way a space feels when it feels cluttered and heavy is often because we have so much stuff in it. So if your space is literally a desk, if you take or a dining room table, if you take everything off your desk, it frees you to see the space differently, not the way you've been seeing it. Some people find that taking everything out to be stressful. Most of us will see that once we've done it, it's unbelievably liberating to see how much stuff we have in a space. My partner always says to me, it always looks worse before it looks better when you're trying to organize something. And I think that's really, really, really true. So next step, once you've taken everything out, you have to sort it into 4 categories. And the 4 categories are super pragmatic. The first is, not that. Sorry, those went in a funny order. The first is things that you use regularly and things that you use sometimes. And hopefully that week where you were paying attention is going to let you know what that actually is. Not what you think it is, but what it actually is. So in home office design, regular use means exactly what it sounds like. What am I using every day to do whatever it is I'm talking about doing, whether it's my kids doing work, whether it's me or my partner or me. What do I need? If I'm in a business where I'm talking to clients every day, what do I need near me when I'm talking to a client? If I'm trying to create a space to be creative and to think, what do I need around me for that? So it's really about piling my things into what do I use all the time, every day. That's my first pile. My second pile are what do I need sometimes? And sometimes doesn't mean once a quarter. Sometimes means once every 3 days, once a week. That's what sometimes means. So now I have these two piles, and the piles are not just files, papers, binders, books. They're also pens, pencils, erasers, swatches, plugs, eyeglasses, paper clips, those kinds of things. It's literally putting in, and electronics, if you have an iPad and a laptop and a speaker and a printer and a shredder, same stuff. It's everything that I have, from electronics to little things to the usual paper, binders, files, all that stuff. So again, what do I use every day? One pile. What do I use sometimes? Maybe every week. And that's my first two big categories. We're going to talk more about those afterwards. The second category is things to donate or consign. We're trying to, in this world, we always promote the idea of trying to keep things out of landfill as much as possible. So donating or consigning, it's been my experience in all these years that you have to be in the frame of mind of wanting to liberate your stuff or your life or your space away from the things that we just keep. So there's different ways to motivate yourself to do that. One could be, okay, I'm done. I just want this nice, clean space. One can be find a charity or a cause that speaks to you. All of these people, all of these charities can use electronics we're not using, binders we're not using. There are charities where paper goods and pens and pencils and binders are sent to countries where schools need those things. So find a charity that perhaps motivates you when you're looking at something to say, do I really need to keep this? Can someone use it more than me? If it's not my regular use or sometimes use, it needs to be out of this primary space. Next, storage and sentimental things, or not. So let's talk about that for a minute. In a home office in particular, there's more need for storage. For example, in Canada, we have to keep tax files for 7 years. And so those things are not stuff that you access, but actually stuff you need to keep. Sometimes you need stuff in your business world where, twice a year you're running events. And so that's stuff that you actually need. If you have kids and you're managing projects, there might be specific art supplies that they don't need. Again, it's not regular or sometimes use. It's just stuff that I need in the house or my kids need in the house because they need it. And that we'll call storage. So the way you think about what needs to be stored is stuff that you really need in your primary space, like it shouldn't be necessarily in a garage or in a storage locker. But it's really not stuff that you're using in our regular or sometimes use. Sentimental value is a super interesting thing, and we're going to talk about it in a couple of ways. I sort of like the Marie Kondo way of thinking about things. If something gives you joy and it's sentimental, then we're going to think about whether we keep it in this space. If we're keeping something sentimental just because, we want to think about if there's other ways to keep it. So one of my favorite ways to help clients and help myself get rid of sentimental things, take pictures of it, create a file folder somewhere for someone, but get rid of it. If you're not using it and you don't have a crazy amount of space and it's not giving you joy, get rid of it. Donate it. Give it to one of your kids, give it to one of your friends, give it to someone who's going to feel good about having it, but get rid of it. And then the last category of what you need to do is you need to create a pile of things that are what I call pretty things that make you feel good. Things perhaps are sentimental things, perhaps they're plants, perhaps they're photographs. It doesn't matter what they are, but in my sorting, I want you guys to create a pile of things that make you feel good. And of course, if you're talking about different people in a home, different things make different people feel good. My son likes to have a basketball collection. That makes him feel great. That doesn't make me feel great. And so all of these things are done per person, as an example. Are we good? So all your stuff first has to be taken out. Second of all, has to be sorted into these 4 groups. You have to do it, as I said, when you're in the frame of mind to do it, because you have to be really diligent about these pieces. It's core. Great. So now, what do we do with everything? So as the inspiration images might have shown you, there are 5 steps I should back up to functional design. And we're going to go through each of them. And the first step is what I call who, which, and how, which is now that we've gone through, we spent our week really thinking about what do we actually use, what do we need near me, what don't we need. We've sorted everything into 4 groups. We have to think about who needs space in our home. And there's some really interesting studies about that. You know, there's an old, I can't remember the author right now, that everybody needs a room of their own. And it's very important now that so many of us are working from home and sometimes all day long, not just for snippets here and there, that everybody has their own space. Even if kids, for example, like to work together at the kitchen table, they're still going to need some space to create a personalized workspace, even if it's just for part of the day. So all of these things that we're talking about, we have to think about as individuals. Each person in our house needs a space to do this, and it might not be a huge space. So who means who's using the space that I'm thinking about doing it? Is it going to be like one of those multi-purpose rooms that sometimes is a guest and sometimes it's my office? Is it going to be a dining room table that's sometimes a dining room table and sometimes my office? Is it an actual dedicated room like the picture showed, where it is my office and it gets to be my space? And so who's using the space that I'm thinking about needs to be thought through consciously. Which is just what I was talking about. Which space in my home might I be thinking about? Is it my kid's bedroom? Is it the dining room? Is it an under the stair nook? Is it a pantry? Which space will I be using to do this? And how speaks to how will I be using it? And one of the things that I think about here is, so in my life, a lot of my day is spent, behind a computer doing things, and I'm alone in my space. A lot of my life is spent sitting face to face, obviously at a social distance, in a social distance way now, with people that I work with. And some of my life is meeting clients right now by Zoom. And so what I need around me and how the space is going to be used is very, very different. As I said before, even though I'm in the organization business, or because I'm in the organization business, Carolyn has seen my office. When you look at the way I work, I literally have piles everywhere, on the floor, on my desk, on the counter beside me. That's how I work. I'm a super visual person, and I need to see things. Them being tied, neatly organized in a filing cabinet, for me, does not work. And so how you and each person in your family works is very important to begin thinking about as you're trying to create space. So I'm someone who could easily, as an example, in my family, work on in the dining room table, spread out everywhere during the day, and then have those wonderful cabinets behind me, so at the end of the day, everything goes away. One of my kids, we created this tiny little, I think it's 30-inch space in her tiny little room with file drawers and cabinets and great ways to plug in her electronics, because she's someone who never, ever needs to spread out. She's incredibly organized. Everything is in a little file. So how she works is she wants her laptop on a tiny little desk, very aesthetically clean. So we have to start thinking about how we each like to work and what the function is. And function is normally about who we're going to be interacting with. Good? Next is this wonderful idea of a rainbow for each person. So if you think about this, some people call this a power circle. I like the idea of a rainbow. If you think about it, if you're in the center of a rainbow or the center of a radar, and there are circles around you, concentric circles emanating out. Everybody following me? What I think about when I'm laying out a space, when you'll be laying out a space, is what do I need in each concentric circle? What do I need right beside me? I'm the center of this rainbow. What do I need right beside me? What do I need in the next layer out? What do I need in the next layer out? And when I say need in the next layer out, I mean literally. What do I need right in front of me physically? What do I need within hand's reach? What do I not mind getting up to walk over for? For example, in my world, and we'll talk about this with ergonomics, but in terms of wellness, one of the things that we know that's been studied statistically is that if we stand up every about 35 minutes, two things happen. Our bodies move, which is very important in terms of stress and tension. Our productivity goes up by 45% if the only thing we do is stand up every 35 minutes and move for a second. Super interesting. So one of the things that's funny in my business is that I don't have the printer in my office because I print things pretty regularly. And so I physically have a printer in someone else's office. So I don't know, every half an hour or so I'm getting up and walking over to the printer, which takes, 10 seconds. But the act of getting up and walking to the printer is something that I'm doing consciously for my wellness. And so I don't want my printer in my rainbow, to use that analogy. I want to get up and move for the 10 seconds that it takes. So as we're building wellness and thinking into what do I need in my rainbow and what do I want to force myself to get out of my rainbow space so that I'm healthier and more productive and having less tension, that's something to think about. Next. No, I want to go back to the rainbow for a minute. So I alluded to this, but I want to be more concrete with you guys. When you're thinking about your rainbow, I want you thinking about, again, the three things that we were talking about. Files, paper, binders. Do I want that stuff in my rainbow, out of my rainbow? Remember, that goes back to our regular use, sometimes use. Regular use things should be in my rainbow. Sometimes use things only if there's room. What do we put from a design perspective in a filing cabinet, in open space, in cubby space, behind doors, in drawers? These are very important, very concrete things to think about. So the way we think about things from a design is how do we compartmentalize things and how do we use them? So I'll give you a silly example. There's an image a little later that I'll show you. If I'm someone who uses a ton of pencils, is a pencil a pencil a pencil? If it's a pencil, then I can just have all my pencils in a drawer or in a cubby in a drawer, and I close my eyes and I literally go and pull the pencil out. If I'm someone in my work who's an architect and who has different kinds of pencils for different tasks, dumping all my pencils in one drawer or in a compartment in my drawer is not great office design. Great office design for that person would be making sure that every pencil has its own spot. So when I go to look for it, I can find it. And so when we're starting to think about rainbow space, we're also starting to think about how do we compartmentalize things. So we're adding this layer, right? We're talking about what do I use all the time? We're talking about what should be in my rainbow. And now we're talking about how do we store things in my rainbow. So things that, as I said, for me, and this is very personal, what do you need to see to do your work? Do you want everything filed where you have a filing drawer near you and you open it up and you can see everything you need by, looking through your filing drawer? Do you need piles? Do you need cubbies? Again, compartmentalizing things. Drawers are a funny thing. Drawers are great for pens, pencils, things that are little that I want to compartmentalize. But drawers are a lousy way to store anything where I need to pull a particular thing. So a lot of people put stuff in drawers like papers and files and swatches and things like that. It's really a bad design solution. A better design solution is to have open shelving where you have slots of everything you need. And if you want it covered, have a door in front of it. So it's covered when you don't need to look for something, but it's open when you're trying to find something in particular. Is that helpful? So remember that when we're thinking about these things, I said I wanted to go back to files, paperwork, books, binders, then little things like pens, pencils, erasers, rulers, then all of our electronic things also in that. What do I really need in my rainbow and how does it look? Do I really need 3 laptops in my rainbow, or is there really just one that's my primary one and the other one should be beside my bed? So in those 3 spaces. Just going to scroll through. I have some images to show you guys. These are some fun, again, these ideas of craft room. They're just little inspirational pictures. This is from a client who in her rainbow that she was creating crafts and needed to be able to see ribbons and needed a particular ribbon and was using it all the time. So we came up with this idea as a way to store her ribbons. I like this image. On the bottom right, you can see same kind of idea. This was for different wrapping paper. And we've done this often for people who work also with plans, with large plans, architects, builders, designers, where they need a way to sort their plans. And here we've just done them standing up behind a big drawer. So really easy to find this. It can be organized by client. It can be organized by supplier, by project. But then when it closes, it's done. There's some wonderful pictures here also of someone who likes to knit, clearly. And how do they choose their wool? Is it by color? Is it by texture? Is it by expense? And so thinking about how you choose things and how you compartmentalize things is really important. Sorry. This is really also an interesting idea, and we'll talk about this more, but how do we get things off of our desk is something to think about when you are designing your own home office. And whether that's fancy slat wall or old-fashioned slat wall or literally some hooks on a wall or some knobs on a wall, how we get things that we need off our desk is something to think about. Here you'll see a pencil drawer that I love. This is a great tip. We use often when we're thinking about things, the one of everything rule. Probably should have talked about that when we were talking about what do I need. But we don't need more than one of things generally. We don't need 4 scissors unless you're a seamstress. You don't need 4 scissors. You don't need 4 staplers. You don't need 4 yellow pens. So when you're thinking about what to keep and what to get rid of, that's an idea. Integrated filing is incredibly practical. This is in a nook, a seated nook, this picture, and it shows you that you can have integrated filing in drawers that you might not otherwise have thought of. We'll go through I think we've gone through most of this stuff already. Next, countertop needs. So we've done 1, which is who, which, how everybody works. Then we've done 2, this idea of rainbow and compartmentalization. And then we're going to talk a little bit about countertop needs and ergonomics. So when you're thinking about countertops, this is a very new, one of the things that's very new is thinking around ergonomics. It's not actually that ergonomics is new, it's that different ergonomic solutions have now become super affordable. Have run the gamut now from super affordable. You can buy a sit and stand table at IKEA to super expensive. And table heights and chair heights have a norm in the world that is actually originally meant for people who are about 5'8", because on average between men and women they were 5'8". And actually, I'm certainly not 5'8". So I will talk a little bit about the height of a table and the height of a chair when we're thinking about countertop space. So I have an ergonomic table in here, and I'll show you that because it's great homework to do. We can send it out to you guys. But actually measuring your proper positioning, if you're sitting, to have the least strain on your body and the most productivity, your knees should be perpendicular to your ankles, 90-degree angle. And the same thing from your shoulder over to your hand. And you should be sitting upright, not leaning forward, not leaning back. And we did this as an exercise in our team at our design meeting last week, where we sat at a table trying to get this position and then taking these measurements. And we run from my height, which is about 5'3", to someone who worked with us who's about 5'11". And the difference in these measurements for each of us, even our arm lengths, even a few of us are the same length, our arms are different lengths. These measurements are so, so different for the individuals, even just on my team. And then, of course, now I have consciousness on everything that's comfortable and not comfortable. I want to have a sit and stand desk in my room. So this is also to stand up and take these measurements for yourself and for your kids. Super fun to have a sit and stand table for little kids as they grow to be able to adjust this. My son, who's studying architecture, we bought him a sit and stand table, and whenever I walk down to his room, he's up and down and leaning on a big bouncy ball and then sitting in a chair that goes up and down. And he says the difference in his productivity and his neck strain is night and day. So we'll make this available to anybody who wants it also. It's a really neat exercise to think about what is my seat height? What is my table height? Can I move? And again, from an ergonomic and a wellness perspective, if you have a sit and stand, like at California Closets, we have these wonderful new sit and stands that you pre-program. So everybody in your house could have a button and it goes to that height for them automatically. You don't have to crank it up and remember, or crank it down. You can preset them electronically. As I said, that's fancy and fun and a great gadget, practical, but you can find stuff very inexpensively on the market. Remember that productivity goes up by 46% if the only thing we're doing differently in our day is changing our position. So I think that's pretty powerful.
Thanks, Lianne. I just wanted to jump in to say we have about 20 minutes left.
Thank you. So countertop needs, and we're doing great for time. Countertop needs is what I was talking about before. Do you need this huge open space, or can you do with a small space? And that's very individual, and that third step of thinking about design. So when you're spending your week doing your homework, think about that. Have everybody in your family think about it. This is just showing you some examples. This is a really neat product that's on the market as well. If you have a desk that you already like and you don't want to invest in a sit and stand, you can find, this is something that we offer, you can find sort of this unit. As you can see, it moves with you, so it creates a sit and stand out of your desk. And so this is something that you can also find. Next, power needs, which is our fourth step in great design. So when you're thinking about power needs, for for everybody, you want to think about a few things. You want to think about the difference between what you need to plug in and what you need to charge. So I'm just going to say that again, because you need to think about the difference between what you plug in and what you need to charge. And that circles back to our idea of all the time to sometimes. If I need to charge my cell phone beside me, plug in my cell phone so that it never loses its battery during the day, I need power near me. If I can charge my cell phone, because when I'm in work mode, I don't actually need it, it can be a little bit further away. So when I think about the power needs, thinking about what I need to plug in and what I need to charge is really important. There's all sorts of charging things in our world is so important now. And one of the things that makes a home office feel beautiful is if there aren't wires everywhere, right? And if it's super convenient. And there's some really wonderful things on the market. This is a California closet thing that's one of my favorite things. We actually do this in people's closets all the time too, so they can charge stuff overnight. But this is a drawer that has a charging station built into it. So if I want my stuff near me in my rainbow, charging, but out of sight because it's a distraction, this is a fantastic solution. These are beautiful. These are just, again, they're California closet beautiful things, but you can find many things on the market. These are literally charging stations that sit on your desk, but they're done in these beautiful materials so they feel nice. They feel more like a work of art. And again, it doesn't have to be something beautiful, but if I need to plug 6 things in on my desk, I actually need something to plug 6 things in on my desk. This is a favorite thing of mine. This is a charging station that lifts up when you need it, because you need to charge something temporarily, and pushes down when you don't, because I don't actually like to have a whole bunch of electronic things around me, as an example. So those are fun examples. So when we're thinking about charging and power needs, like I said, the difference between what you need to plug in and what you need to charge, and to think consciously about that. The last step of functional design is lighting. And here I'm thinking about task lighting, not pretty lighting. Productivity and wellness, of course, we all know this. I'm going to say goes up when a surface is well lit, but actually a bigger truth is that we all have our own sensitivity to light. We're all, as humans, very, very different in what feels productive. You'll notice that some people like to work in what feels to me like a dark, cozy space. And some people like to work with a ton of light. And both of those things need light. It just needs to feel different. It's very important when we're creating office space to think about what task lighting do I need? Is there natural light in the room? If there's natural light in the room, window light works best with computer screens when the window light is behind the screen, not in front of the screen, as an example. If I'm doing small little meticulous work, do I need an extra light to turn on when I'm doing that work? In our climate in the winter, when it gets dark at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, what kind of task lighting do I need in my space? And here's just some examples, some inspirational examples of the way we've designed some task lighting. This is a teenager room, 2 kids sharing a space, and you can see the lighting right above their desks, well lit. This is, again, here you can see a few different things. There's lighting to make sure the room, which happens to be a basement, is well lit. And there's these task lamps in the space where people need to highlight something. And where often we find with task lamps, people who are sensitive to light will like to turn them on for some projects, tasks they're working on, and turn them off. So thinking about how my space is lit is very important in great office design. And the last step of design, which is the easiest thing to talk about, is this idea of, now we've gone through all the functional stuff. We know What we use every day, we need it within our rainbow. What we use sometimes, we need close by. Everything else is gone. We've thought about our countertop space. We've thought about our ergonomics. We've thought about our power needs. We've thought about our lighting. And now we get to make it look like us. And like us means whoever's using the space. And this is sort of obvious to me. We'll go back to that pile of stuff that we created that makes us feel good. And now we're going to talk about mainly 4 things. Lighting. Now this isn't task lighting. This is ambient lighting. It's like putting on jewelry. Layering lighting makes a space feel richer and more deep and more dynamic. And so thinking about that for the beauty of the light to create a space for us is huge. Objects is the second thing we think about. Objects can be anything from photos, art, books. And you can see that I wrote or not boldly, because sometimes what makes a space feel creative and calm is actually having almost nothing in it. And that's incredibly individual, but I think it's important to think about. For me, I always buy myself flowers every Monday morning. Having some lilies on my desk makes me, in the middle of all my piles, makes me feel like this is Lianne's space. I like the smell, I like the look, makes me happy. So it could be something as simple as that. Plants, I always think it's important to talk about natural. I wrote plants, but I mean anything natural. We know that we respond to natural elements, humans just do, whether it's wood or stone or plants or texture that is a natural element. It's really important to think about it. And it could be something as simple as I'm putting my pens in some sort of a holder that's organic in nature. So organic things resonate for humans in terms of calmness. And color and texture is really, really important and really, really personal. Some people, as I said, feel like bright colors like that craft room that I showed you is energizing. Some people feel overwhelmed by that. Some people love white space because it creates this expansiveness. Sometimes people feel like it's robotic. One of the tips that we talk about with clients in color is often if we look to our wardrobe, what are the things that we like to wear? That gives us a good hint about what kind of colors to surround ourselves with in a space. And of course, painting, literally painting, even if it's block painting, meaning like an area over my desk, behind my desk, is an incredibly inexpensive way to change the feel of a space. Should never forget about texture. Layering textures, even if it's white on white, makes a big difference in the way a space feels in terms of depth and richness, like light. So again, I wanted to circle back to a couple of the inspiration pictures to pull together some of the things that we talked about, and we'll talk about them in this space. So this person likes to work with a very clean desk surface and likes to have a very clean space when they're working. So what became critical is making sure that everything from the desk down was closed. They wanted to open things to find things. So the only thing they're going to use is what they pull out on their desk. I should point out that everything on the top of this person is a book collector. And so everything on the top is actually not for their work. It's for the thing that makes them feel good. That's their pretty in this space. And that shouldn't be hidden because that's the thing that inspires them and makes them feel like it's their own. But you'll notice here that nothing below the surface is open except for right under the desk where it was super clean. And there's only a computer. And behind, you can see those in the center behind below that red and blue picture, those are files. This person likes to go and pull out the file they're working on and put it on their desk and then put it back away. behind the cabinet doors are all the binders and manuals that they need. You can see on this desk that to store some electronics and some plugs, they've used a natural tray, not that complicated. There's also a wonderful magnetic board. We didn't talk about magnetic boards, but it's another thing that gets things off the desk and keeps you organized. And so that's a very simple tip in terms of getting stuff off of our counter. Another couple of pictures and then we are done. This space, I love this space because it shows a few things. It was not a big corner in a room. There's a beautiful light that doesn't look like an office. That's the pretty piece of this. You see the organic, there's a plant on the table. You see color blocking here. Do you see how the gray behind the desk is just about 2 feet high and has been painted as a backsplash? That creates this idea of a space that's been super inexpensive to do. They've hung a couple of pictures, they color block, they have this great chandelier, and now and a carpet, which adds texture. Now this space, although it's an office, like think about this space. It's nothing. It's a hole and some doors and some cabinets and a countertop, but it feels like a home because of the pretty. I love this image. I know Carolyn loves this image too. This is someone who's lucky enough to have a big office. And what makes, again, same kind of idea. Those baskets are filled with stuff that someone needs. Wires, electronics, paper clips, things that get dumped, but when they get put away, they're put away. The chair is super girly and makes this person feel super feminine and turns this space to another level. That's her personal piece. Cookbooks, a couple of family photographs, some very simple objet, but for her, she likes this, as you can see, this balance between more full, more cluttered, and clean. So by organizing that, she's created this feeling. And then again, we'll just end on this note about this idea of finding yourself at home. I can't stress enough, again, that if you go through these steps, which are a little bit overwhelming sometimes, but you just do them a step at a time, you're going to create a space that feels like you and like what you need. And you'll have thought it through carefully so that you'll actually never have to think about it again and you'll just enjoy your space. So that was it for me. A little strange to be just talking for 45 minutes, unusual. I miss being in a room with people. I hope this was helpful and meaningful. I'm absolutely open to questions. You can unmute yourself or type in the chat box and someone will let me know what those are. And
we do have a couple of questions that came through during the session, Lianne, that were more general. And I found it helpful for sure. One specific question is, we have a question from Sherry who says, I just moved into a new house that's very open concept and my desk is basically in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. What's some tips to close that up at night to make it more tidy?
So I think we've sort of gone through those, Sherry, but it's really about literally putting things in something or behind something. And so closing it up at night could be something as simple as go down to Home Depot or wherever your Winners, go buy some beautiful boxes that are open or closed and literally put your stuff in the boxes at the end of the day. Let them be things that work with your kitchen, that feel good, that are pretty. Or invest in something that you can literally close at night. One of my kids, which I love, I walked into her, she came home because of COVID, wasn't supposed to be home. And she took these, we have at California Closets, we have all sorts of different kinds of textured boxes. And she's dumped, her thesis stuff in one, her electronic stuff in one, her inspirational stuff in one, all of her little books in one. So at the end of the day, she's got these 3 beautiful boxes sitting under her desk. She's done for the day. Sherry, let me know if that was helpful or if you want something else from me to expand in another way.
Sherry also wants to know, and we only have 1 minute left, but this is probably a quick answer. The stand-up desk option, that little addition for the desk, where is that available?
Well, it's available at California Closets, of course. I don't know where else it's available, but I would guess you could do a Google search and see if you could find something. As I mentioned, I know that IKEA has an entire desk that moves up and down by crank that's pretty inexpensive. So that would be a great thing too.
That's great. So Lianne wanted to let us, if anyone else had questions that we didn't get to, please feel free to send them in and we'll get them to Lianne. I also wanted to remind all attendees that you'll be receiving a $100 gift certificate towards custom design California Closets home office solution. So if you want to go down that road, you've got a little starting point for it. So thank you for that as well, Lianne. And thank you for joining us today. Before we sign off, also want to thank Dustin, Chantal, the whole Ottawa.Insider team for their hard work getting this set up today. Thank you again to Lianne and of course to all of those of you who joined us today. And have a great day.
I want to just take 1 second to let everybody know, although it has nothing to do with what we're doing, we're looking to build our team. So if anybody knows anyone in Ottawa looking for work, please, please, please reach out to us, californiaclosets.ca, or you'll get an invitation from us for your gift certificate. Really looking to build, looking for installers and shop team and design consultants. Let us know if you know anybody. It was fun for me. Hope everybody got something useful out of this.
Well, I sure did, and I sure hope everyone else did too. I'm sure they did. Certainly, judging from the comments, I think they did. So thanks again, Lianne.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.